Sixers get lucky last night, or is it just more the same? The third pick of the draft is not exactly exciting in this year's draft. But last night, if you watched the draft lottery, I got really confused. I didn't know how it was possible to jump out of the lottery and come back in. It turns out it was a ruse. He had the wrong information, Temple's own Kevin Gandhi, when he said the Sixers had jumped out of the top 6. And everybody had a collective groan in the Delaware Valley. And then all of a sudden, a couple other teams figure that puts the Sixers back in the top 6. I go, whoa, what the hell happened here? And then they get to the top 4. And for an inkling, for one little specific moment, I thought everybody thought this was going to come out the way that would shock the world, that the Sixers would actually get the number 1 pick in the draft and get Cooper Flagg. But no, they got number 3. And number 3 is probably the worst possible scenario other than falling out of the draft lottery. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not terrible, okay? There are 2 players in this draft that I think are ready to play right now in the NBA and can contribute right away. That's Cooper Flagg and Dylan Harper. And I was saying it yesterday, and I've been saying it for most of the time. But Ace Bailey, although a very, very highly touted high school prospect, who went with Dylan Harper to Rutgers, really didn't perform to that level. He's got a lot of work to do in the NBA. I don't think he'll be an impact contributor next year. I think he'll be a back-end-of-the-bench guy who gets dribs and drabs to try to develop his game. The one thing about the kid is that he's a wing, and they need wings, and he's got length. They need length. He's 6'10", and he's a shooter. So, I look at a guy like Jabari Smith for Houston Rockets. He's that type of player, in my view, where he can stick it. And maybe, his contribution is that he can make a 3 every now and then. But I don't think that the Sixers are going to use this guy to make a significant jump in the standings as they focus. You heard Daryl Morey. You got the big 3 back, and then you're just trying to add on. Would this be trade fodder is the question that I have. Would Daryl Morey go hunting for a more significant player using this draft pick, maybe using Tyrese Maxey in a package, and the first guy you think of is Giannis Antetokounmpo? Could they even make a deal that way? I mean, probably not. With all the teams that probably are better stocked to make that deal, the Sixers are probably down on the landing strip. But so last night gave you at least a little bit of promise, a little bit of hope. It wasn't a total disaster, but it wasn't something that's going to help them immediately. I'm Mike Missanelli. That's Bill Colarulo with us. It's Ray Dunn with us. Bill, your impression last night as you watched that exciting draft lottery.
Yeah, exciting. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Ray. It was, like you said, it was an emotional roller coaster because our man Kevin Gandhi, he gave me a heart attack when he said that means they're going to lose their pick. I'm like, great. And then when they hit the commercial break and they got a shot at getting the number 1 overall pick, I'm thinking it's going to happen. They're getting Cooper Flagg. I can't believe it's going to happen.
You're so easily sold.
So easily, dude. So easy. I was all in. I'm like, literally, I had the kids, the wife. I'm like, Sixers are all back. They're back. They're getting Cooper Flagg. My daughter had no idea what I was talking about. In fact, she said to me, the Dallas Cowboys got Cooper Flagg. So she's learning. She's learning.
Yeah.
But the fact that Dallas got it is just ridiculous. A 1.8% chance in the same season they make one of the most ridiculous trades we've ever seen, sending Luka to L.A., and now somehow, with a 1.8% chance, they get Cooper Flagg. Not saying it's rigged, but
yes,
little suspect, Mike.
You're saying it's rigged.
Little suspect.
Saying it's rigged.
But when
the Dallas Mavericks have been really unlucky in the draft. They have, in fact, I think this is the first time they didn't fall down from their draft place. So if anybody deserved it, it was the Dallas Mavericks. They got it. I think it's going to make the league a lot more interesting that he goes to a decent team.
It'll be interesting. I'm sure Nico feels very good that the fans won't kill him this offseason because at least they got Cooper Flagg. But as far as the Sixers go, you're saying the 3rd pick. I agree with you. I would have preferred the number 2 pick, obviously, or number 1. But at least they kept their pick. At least it's in the top 3. But now I'm torn, and I want to talk to you about this because we've spent pretty much all season, once we realized how bad these veteran surrounding pieces were, that they need to get younger. They need to get younger. And I look at this and say, well, you can't get much younger than drafting an 18-year-old kid in Ace Bailey But at the same time, do I want to see them use this pick on an 18-year-old kid that's going to take some time to develop, or knowing that you're probably stuck with Paul George for the next 3 years and you're stuck with Joel Embiid for the next 4 years, do you try to package this and trade it? And I'm torn on it because I do want to see them get younger, but I don't know if I want to take a guy that's a developmental piece that's going to take a couple of years before you see his true potential. So I honestly don't know how I feel this morning with what Daryl Morey should do with the number 3 pick.
Here's what I think. I think they ought to trade one of the two big guys.
But you may have to package the 3rd pick, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and in which case I would do that.
And when you say one of the two big guys,
here's the problem.
Well, you talking about Joel
I'm talking to Joel and Paul George.
So you're keeping Maxey?
No. If he would have to go in a trade, I would include him in the trade. I would keep Bailey.
Wait, I'm confused now.
No, I can't keep Bailey.
No, if you have to
trade Bailey and Maxey and Paul George, that's what I would do.
That's going to be tough with the contract.
I know. You have to take back something. That would. I'm confused too.
Yeah, it's a confusing
the problem
situation.
Is Bailey is at least a couple of years away from being a viable NBA player. By that time, Joel gets 2 years older. By that time, Paul George is ancient. I just don't. I don't see any hope with even this. They had to get Cooper Flagg to have hope. They don't have hope with this pick. Although down the road, maybe he turns into something. I mean, I have no way of knowing that. The way they draft anymore is they draft the highest McDonald's All-American high school player. That's the way they go. Like, even if they haven't performed in high school, they still have this kind of value that they think they're getting this jewel, and all they have to do is polish it. That's the way they draft anymore.
Yeah, what has me concerned about Ace Bailey and even Dylan Harper is that same issue we ran into with Ben Simmons at LSU, where they didn't have any college success. They didn't even make the tournament, this Rutgers team.
No, Dylan Harper had a lot of college success.
But this season I'm talking about, as a team, they didn't make...
The team didn't, but that doesn't really matter. But if a player looks good and has success as a player, Dylan Harper's a stud. He's a 6'6", a guard that you can use as a point guard. He's got a slowed down game and he's got a fast up game. He's a legitimate player.
I agree with you. However, the lack of team success concerns me. Because, again, the Ben Simmons comparison. Kid was a stud. Look how athletic he is. He's going to be the next big thing. He's going to take over for LeBron. LSU had zero success.
You could go through history and find Hall of Famers whose college teams didn't have success. I think you're putting too much value in that. If you're a good player, you're a good player. When you play with better players, you blend in and you fortify.
It doesn't concern you a little bit.
No.
That two of the top 3 picks in the NBA draft, Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper, who played together on Rutgers, couldn't do enough to even get that team to a tournament.
No. They play in a really tough league, and they only had 2 players. Like, what are you expecting? It wasn't a great team around them.
At least a tournament.
Oh, no, I think I'm telling you, you look at all these great players that have come through. Not all of them have come from really good teams. Talent is what divides it.
Yeah, I know the supporting cast was terrible with Rutgers, but that just makes me concerned. So if you were Daryl Morey right now, you're on the phone trying to figure out a way to package the number 3 pick and maybe one of the big 3, whether it's Maxey, George, or Embiid, to get who? To get Giannis?
I would try to move Paul George. I would try to make that deal to get Giannis. It would be exciting, man. It really would be.
It would be a change, that's for sure.
You wouldn't have to rely on Embiid being there every night when you have Giannis. 610-632-0975. We'll see how the people feel about it. Phillies lost last night. We'll talk about that as well. Mike Missanelli Show on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, everybody, it's Bill Colarulo. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel so you can engage during the show, and you're not going to want to miss all the content that we post. It's not only the live videos. It's videos after the fact. It's our shorts. It's all the content you want as a Philadelphia sports fan. Looking forward to connecting.